Welcome into the Hyundai Studios here on S2HD.com for STO Fantasy Playbook. I'm Will Ewick, joined alongside Ryan Cavanaugh. Today we have Stardom, Situm, the injury impact, and also the fantasy marketplace. We begin with Stardom, Situm. We're looking for those big-name guys that the conditions say Situm. Also the guys that may be on the bench or the free agents that it says they may have a good game. One of those guys, people are looking at him right now, Brian Hartline. You don't think that's an aberration?
No, probably a guy you can get on your waiver wire, but if you look inside the numbers, forget the monster week he had. He's averaging 12 targets a game. Ryan Tannehill has obviously attached himself to Brian Hartline, and this week they have a favorable matchup against Cincinnati, Griffin, Whedon, two other rookies who had big games, and I look for Brian Hartline to have a big game. Andy Dalton's another guy. In the past 3 weeks, he's averaged almost 300 yards passing and 7 total touchdowns. He's playing the Dolphins with the third worst pass defense. Kevin Cobb last week to throw for 324 and 3 touchdowns. I look for Dalton to match those numbers.
A guy that I kind of like here in Cleveland, Greg Little, and you looked at him last week. He had some drops that kind of upset some people, but he got some targets. The Browns will probably be down. They're playing the Giants, so the targets are going to be there. And also he's averaging 55.8 yards on the road opposed to 30.2 at home. This is in East Rutherford, New Jersey. The Giants have given up 6 touchdowns to wide receivers on the year, so I look for Little to have a big game. Also Ryan Williams, running back for the Arizona Cardinals, alone in the backfield finally with Beanie Wells out. Terrible week last week against Miami, but they are the #1 rush defense. Now he gets the Rams, who are giving up an average of 135.3 rushing yards per game and an average of 19.5 fantasy points to opposing running backs. So a good start there, I think, Ryan Williams. Now we move on to our sits, and Ryan, a couple running backs there for you. C.J. Spiller, one of them. What do you think about him this week?
Well, we talked about him in the injury report last week. We said 2 to 3 weeks he'd be out. That turned to 0. Not only was he back, so was Fred Jackson. Jackson got more carries, and Tashard Choice is in the mix. They're playing the Niners this week, 5th best run team. I keep him on my bench. The second guy is Michael Turner. Owners of Turner have been waiting for the breakout game he gave us last week. It's not going to happen again. He averaged 50 yards rushing a game before that week, and they're playing the Washington Redskins, who allow 326 in the air. Atlanta's a passing team. Look for Matty Ice to go off and Turner to be a guy you keep on your bench.
A couple of running backs on my bench this week. One of them, D'Angelo Williams. No more than 14 touches in any game this year, and that's with Jonathan Stewart banged up. Now Stewart's back. He's got a bad matchup, too, against Seattle, the #2 rush defense. Chris Johnson, another one people think, hey, he's back, 186 rushing yards. I really don't think he's back, and I think Minnesota will be keying on him with a banged-up blocker. And also the Vikings allowed only 1 rushing touchdown all year and an average of 9 fantasy points to opposing running backs. I put Chris Johnson on my bench. Now we move on to the injury impact. The New York Jets, Ryan, have been banged up all over the place. You got Darrelle Revis out, which that defense is not causing turnovers, not giving the offense opportunities. Sanchez struggling. Now his #1 wide receiver goes down.
Right, we saw the impact of Revis on defense last week. Now they can't stop anybody. And without Santonio Holmes, they're just going to key on Sean Green. Hopefully it's addition by subtraction. We're going to find out what Stephen Hill has, the young, promising rookie.
Move on to the fantasy marketplace, stock up and stock down. Ryan, who are you liking this week on the upcline? Who's going down for you?
Upclimb, Justin Blackmon. This is a guy who is probably owned in most leagues and has not been started yet for good reason. 4 catches for 31 yards through the first 3 weeks. Last week, 6 catches, 48 yards, but 10 targets. Gabbert looks to go to Blackmon. He's got the potential. Stock up guy. DeMarco Murray. The last 3 weeks, he's only rushed for 106 yards. Last week, only 11 attempts. He's helping out in the passing game, but for a stud running back like Murray, he's trending in the wrong direction. Stock down.
This is the only time you're going to hear stock up on the New York Jets. I'm going to revisit that Jets team for Bilal Powell, which is a guy that's coming in. Now, Sean Green really underperformed since his rookie year. Powell keeps stealing carries little by little each week. Gets the start over Green last week. Didn't really do much with it, but this is an interesting name to put on your bench right now. May pay off down the road. Stock down Ahmad Bradshaw. Everyone thought Brandon Jacobs leaves for San Francisco. Hey, he's got the backfield to himself. This is the year for Bradshaw. Not really happening that way, Ryan. You have Andre Brown stealing carries. Whoever has the hot hand's going to get the ball. Wilson still lingering. I think for where you drafted him, you can get good value for him right now. Maybe a good time to move Bradshaw. Make sure you check out our columns online at S2HD.com and click on the Fantasy tab at the top of the page. For Ryan Cavanaugh, I'm Will Ewick reminding you it's your fantasy. We just happen to be in it.